Before we start, just take a moment to listen. This little corner of the garden is where my composter lives, tucked away by the shed, and it's one of my favourite quiet jobs out here, turning scraps and clippings into something really useful. I'm using a Green Johanna hot composting bin, and I'll keep this simple and show you exactly what I did for my first batch of compost. To start, I built the bin, and that was really easy. I sat it level on bare earth so it can breathe from underneath. Then I covered the base with a loose layer of twigs and sticks to help airflow. On top of that, I added leaves and a sprinkling of soil just to introduce a bit of life to help get things going. Next comes a layer of fresh green trimmings and grass clippings. Grass is really nitrogen rich, so it's brilliant for heat, but it does need balancing with some brown carbons, like cardboard, so it doesn't turn smelly or slimy. And this is the aerator, sometimes called a stirring stick. I use it little and often to lift and mix the top layers and allow air to go all the way through the bin so that the microorganisms and little worms have all the oxygen they need to do the work. And this is the balance, the cardboard. This is carbon rich, so it soaks up moisture and helps structure, creating little pockets of air. It keeps everything in balance. I give it a proper turn with a garden fork, mixing those layers and letting the air in. If your compost ever smells a bit off, turning and adding extra dry cardboard or torn up newspaper, that will help. And then once it's mixed, I keep an eye on the temperature. Heat is a great sign. It means the compost is active. And if you're using a compost thermometer, you'll see it rise quite quickly. When it's really hot, I take the insulating jacket off. When it's cold, I put it back on. If it overheats, those helpful little microorganisms can struggle and the whole process will stall. Now, one thing that really helped me was drying some grass clippings. Fresh grass is really very green and it gives you a lot of nitrogen into the compost, but that means it also gets very hot and can be quite slimy if you have a big thick layer of grass clippings. Spreading it out and drying it first makes it more like a brown carbon-rich ingredient. And you can see here I'm mixing in those dried mowings to lift and balance what's already in there. This is the stage where it starts to look properly composty. Darkening down, warming through, but you can still see obvious green bits, and that's completely normal. I also check the moisture with my hand. You're aiming for it to feel like a squeezed out sponge, damp but not sopping. This batch was a bit dry, so I added some water gently and evenly, sprinkling it from a watering can. When the lid is on, I keep the vents open, and when it's active and warm, and I'll reduce the ventilation if it's very cold or if the compost seems to be cooling down. Then fast forward to winter, and this is the bit that's a bit like magic. Even when it's cold outside, the compost can stay active inside, and when I open it up and aerate it, you can see the steam rising. I aerate it about every week, pushing the tool down and gently lifting to open up air channels throughout the mix. It's a small step, but it makes a big difference over time. If your compost is too tight, it can go sour, and if it's too loose, it can dry out and cool down. I've found that 1/3 of green things to 2/3 of brown things keeps things nice and active. I have a shredder for cardboard boxes. That makes life a lot easier too. And now, fast forward to spring, which is the moment I've been waiting for. Time to have a proper look. And look at that. Dark, crumbly, earthy smelling. That's what you're aiming for. You'll often find the odd tougher leaf still intact. This bay leaf is a perfect example. Things like that can just go back into the next batch. And although this is a hot compost bin, worms can still move in and out through the base, and they will happily help with the finishing stages. And here's a wriggly worm, happily doing its quiet work and munching through everything for me. And I'm not the only one who appreciates worms. If you're often out in your garden, you'll probably recognise the robins. They know exactly what's going on and are always hopeful for a little snack. To harvest the finished compost, I take off the lid, followed by the 3 rings of insulating jacket. Then I undo the 3 screws and open the hatch at the bottom. I was quite surprised by how easy it was to lift the hatch up. And here it is, rich, usable compost. If it clumps slightly, just crumble it through your fingers. And if you find any bigger bits, pop them back into the bin to carry on composting. I'm using mine as a mulch on this bed. It will help to feed the soil gently, hold in moisture and give everything a really good start this year. And I always save a little bit to add into the next batch. A bit like a starter for a sourdough loaf. Then it's back to the quiet corner again, lid on, bent set, and left to do its thing. Composting is a slow and steady magic, a mixture of air, water, and just the right balance of greens and browns. If you keep it damp like a squeezed out sponge, remember to aerate it on a regular basis and adjust the mix if it gets a bit too hot or a bit too dry, with extra greens or extra browns. You'll get there. You'll have compost that's better than anything you can buy, and your plants and the birds and all the microorganisms you're feeding will thank you.